And we're back, ladies and gents. Contenders Trials EMEA continues on with our second game of the day. We got Roar Esports taking on the Ultimates, just like game one. It's going to be me and got Moxie taking you through all the action. Now, Mox, it was a relatively quick game one, but it told us a lot about what these teams are running, and we haven't seen as much of what we thought we were.
No Genji. I'm so surprised. It's been 2 whole maps, and we haven't seen a single bit of Genji. What time is it? What year is it even when you don't see Genji in Overwatch now? But it's going to be 2 new teams, the Ultimates versus Roar, and this is going to be, well, a little bit strange for one member on the side of Roar, because you've got Saito, who was on Clockwork Vendetta, and you have a look at the players on the Ultimates roster, and 5 of the 6 players all came from Clockwork Vendetta, which means Saito is actually going to be up against his former teammates, including Monk Mata.
So what I'm hearing is Zytor is either going to get the best day of his life and get to just rub it in against 5 of his old teammates, or he's just going to get bullied and never hear the end of it from 5 people.
Yeah, you know that at some point they are going to be trying to veer towards that 1 versus 1 to see who would come out on top. I think it may be a little bit unfair, you know, with roles. But it will be interesting to see, because obviously you know how your former teammates like to play best. And we haven't really got to see Clockwork Vendetta, unfortunately, because they have broken up, which is such a shame. They were such a huge part of Overwatch history, but we do get to see the former players from the team, and we know that they go for a specific style of play, don't they?
They have a very choice style of play, one that people should and hopefully are aware of by this point. It's one that we've seen in Contenders and Contenders Trials a good bit. These players play some very specific heroes, but given the current meta, do you think that changes?
Well, I mean, some of the specific heroes that you can play, you can run in this day and age, but you also have to sort of adapt. Because that DPS role, it's changed. It's fluctuated over the years. We saw Ashe come in, Echo come in, and Echo was extremely powerful when she dropped. So if you do actually cast your eye down the ultimate sheet and you look at the DPS slots, they do have a little bit of variety. Ashe, Widowmaker, Hanzo, Genji, Tracer, and Pharah. And remember, this is not Clockwork Vendetta, so the old one tricks might have been picking up a couple of new tricks to tide themselves over trials.
I think that's exactly what they need to be doing, right? If you want to find success, you need to adapt. And I think there's this middle ground there between the Ultimates composition that we suspect they're going to be running and what's being run in meta. And I honestly think that lands somewhere in that middle ground where you either use the Genji as a brawler or you run something like we saw in the previous games with the Ashe Tracer being extremely prevalent. You have strong hit scan. It's just being able to combine that with a little bit of those newer ideas.
I mean, I'm just looking forward to seeing whether or not these guys are going to be coming out with that mirror matchup that we got to see in that first series, because so often you run into a wall when it has that mirror matchup. One team obviously is always going to be better at running it, and it's a real test to see whether or not the people who were falling behind in that battle actually swap off. And a failure to swap off and adapt tends to result in a map defeat of its own.
And just like in the previous series, we're going to be starting off in the same map order: Busan, Blizzard World, Temple of Anubis, Route 66, Ilios, and Oasis. But Mox, let's kick it off here. We're seeing a lot of the same from what we did in the previous game.
I mean, we are seeing Widow though, and they're coming out with this. Monk Mata is going to be sticking, so Eli is going to have a real hard time being on that Echo. Every single time you fly up into the sky, there aren't much places you can hide on Sanctuary. It's so open when it comes to that skybox that you risk being immediately dinked in the head.
Yeah, but this team is sink or swim on Monk Mata. Whether or not this Widowmaker is able to put in damage matters so much, because then you don't have the Dynamite, you don't have the Ashe to be constantly pumping out damage. If this Widowmaker can't find an off angle or can't find a pick, they're going to have a lot of trouble. Tsar starting it off right, taking out Fuki earlier on and evening up that damage a lot more. Now Immortality Field being used by Roar, and they're running out of resources to win this one. Finally, from an off angle, Monk Mata comes up big and domes Zytor down, and that's going to be a fight won by the Ultimates to start things off.
The Ultimates creating so much space for the DPS. Look at these ult charges for these guys. Monk Mata 91% to that first Infrasight, and Kissar already with that pulse bomb in hand. Whereas Roar Fuki hasn't been able to breach the 30% barrier on this Ashe because you haven't been given the space. And you can't be given the space. In fact, we're seeing Eli's going to go onto the Genji just to try and get into Monk Mata's space to allow Fuki the stage to go after Kasar, who's been constantly harassing him.
Absolutely, and this isn't a bad plan either, but oh my god, Sneak, and he finds another one! Oh, poor side sword! The guy can't catch a break starting off the fight right. No main heals to be found. The Ultimate's gonna easily take this one after that.
You've got to know where the Widow's set up. In Contenders trials, you know a Widowmaker who's uncontested. If you don't know where she is, she's going to be waiting. She's going to hit a shot on Monk Mata! What is this? Standing on main, even manages to pick up the shot and not be punished for the arrogance. And that was nothing but arrogance coming out from the Ultimate.
Yeah, Monk Mud is still gonna be a problem as well as another visor. Oh no, the same angle. There's no way. Are they
Please
out?
Don't let them fall for it.
I thought Eli was dead for a second. Amp Matrix is used either way. No, it's Henningsen dead, followed by Sir Majed. A quick fight win by Roar using the Amp Matrix and taking a ton of space with it afterwards. Kasar is gonna try and just buy a little bit of time, get some percentage, but it ain't gonna happen.
If you're Roar, now you've got a big old win condition for this next fight though. You can't allow Monk Mata to set up. And you're not even going to let them try and line up another headshot. So straight back this one. Lovely play coming out from the side of Roar because now Fuki's able to get those shots, and now that you're not being constantly contested by Monk Mata, who had all of that space, it's Roar's front line now that can create all of that area for the Ashe to just farm in this ultimate. But Eli, with this blade, that's going to be the thing that will try and use to win out this next fight.
Yeah, both teams starting off, dropping the bongos here, but already it's Roar getting the better of them. They've committed only 2 ultimates, and they've managed to take this fight by storm.
Oh, that's what you need. Ultimate economy. You're 33% on the point right now, and you need to keep these really big win conditions so that you can constantly cycle through them. And so if you're the ultimates, everything slowly starts to hinge on making sure that you can shut this Genji down before that blade comes through. Or you have to be able to kill him when Chalky Milk goes for that shield bash, otherwise you have just lost this next fight.
Absolutely. Eli has to come in with the Naked Blade. There's nothing to really boost it up here, but there's nothing to really stop it from the ultimates either. Chalky Milk has to hit this shield bash. However, looking to combo with the blade. They go in. Immortality Field has already been used. The fight's already over for Roar.
It's overkill though. It's a lot of overcommitment. You are going to be equalizing, but you could have held on to that blade. We saw in the kill feed, it wasn't the thing that picks up kills. It just slowly chipped away, and Eli gets taken out. Monk Mata popping that fight immediately afterwards, going to be searching for Fuki because that Ashe is so close to ultimate, and that's the thing that can tip Raw over in terms of this next fight.
Oh, that stings so much as well from Roar. That thing that was supposed to deal with Monk Mata no longer can. And you see how free these sightlines are. They can do nothing other than just stay away. But Zaitor is going to fall. And this team slowly collapsing after a singular pick from Monk Mata. Fuki in a lot of trouble by the Tracer. Will get finished off. In fact, this fight rolling the way of Roar slowly but surely here.
Yeah, you can see Kasat trying to make something happen with this Tracer. The Brigida's out of the way, so your CC, your main problem that you have to worry about, is also out of the way. And you need to win this fight because it's at 99 for Raw. And if you're Raw, you can just build up, right? You're going to be coming in with this Bob. Eli's so achingly close to that blade. If you're the ultimate, everything starts to circle around Antigon on this Sigma. Sigma Flex has to be up, has to be able to pull Zaitor's Immortality Field properly out to allow Kasar and Henningsen to set up ultimates of their own.
It's all about that setup, and for Roar, it's about building these ultimates up, right? You only have so much. You have to start off with the Bob just to contest point, but Monk Mata has the free sideline, and it's starting to farm your health bars. Fuki, the first one to lose their Bob, but both teams set up on point. The rallies are going to be what win this one, as well as the blade from Eli trying to get through all that armor, slicing and dicing his way around, but not finding all that much. Instead, it's Antigon finding a massive gravitic flux and all the follow-up that the ultimates need to take a map.
Yeah, Ultimate's able to just deal with these little bits of staggers. Raw not going to be able to have much pressure on that point. Zaitor's onto that Lucio, but even if you go onto that Lucio, there's nothing much you can really do. You were so far away from ult. Teemo might have been able to get those supercharges up online in time, but it's so hard for Nervous to move safely to spawn, from respawn back onto that point, even less so when you're trying to put the supercharges down and not see them shredded in seconds. But we're going to be headed downtown. And now that we've seen Monk Mada's Widow on Sanctuary, we might get to see that Widow yet again on here, or even the Ashe, because you take control of that high ground, and you take control of 75% of this map. It is so hard for a team that loses that first fight to safely be able to walk onto point when they're exposed to an Ashe who can two-tap your head.
Yeah, but we're seeing complete switch-ups from what we saw on the map prior. This time, it's Kassar on the Genji with Monk Mudda running an Ashe, and Eli swaps away from the Genji and onto an Echo. Now, Eli has to get a lot of value. I think they were assuming they'd see a Widowmaker here, but absolutely not. Great halt, though, into the Sneak Bomb. That's a lot of damage for the Ultimates to deal with early on. However, not that big of a deal for them. Roar, however, getting pushed straight back into this bomb. They need to reposition. They're actually going to do so beautifully over here into the Mega Room. Still losing a lot of HP, though, and Admiral Raptor and Zytor, the supports fall, and with that, the whole castle's going to crumble.
Yeah, Ultimate's making sure that Brig is the one to go out of the way first and allowing Kassar to go in with that Genji 52% to that blade. Eli's going to switch, but that misread cost them. You are now half an ultimate behind Kassar, and Genji blades can be so achingly devastating, even though you've got that shield bash available for Admiral Raptor, even though you've got Zytor there with that Baptiste Immortality field. It pulls out so much utility. You can set the ultimates up for Monk Mada to come in with a massive big dynamite or even a bomb.
Yeah, such an advantage here for the Ultimates coming into this fight. Once the Ultimates get up, though, that's when we start talking about them. There we go. We're going to start off with the Gravitic Flux. Finds 3, lays him right back on down. Immortality field now forced out. The Ultimates have found themselves a kill, and now it's just about the follow-up. Amplification Matrix used, and that's an act of desperation because Kassar is coming in with a blade of his own to just shut that right on down.
Oh, that was such a misplay for Zytor. You were in a small room, you didn't have the space, you weren't able to get those shots going through Amplification Matrix, and now you can't drop it to keep the ultimate from making sure that they can get someone early on. As you move through, you can already see Kassar is getting very aggressive, and there's nothing you can do to punish him. If you're Raw, the best that you can do is set Eli up for a massive monster of a blade, but there are so many things available for the ultimates that can shut you down.
The Ultimates as well, they just have their namesake behind them so much in the way of ultimate economy. They'll chuck in the Bob and Amp Matrix and just take away a free fight right now.
Yeah, this is really dire straits for Raw right now because you were behind in ultimate economy. You're 70% behind in that point. You managed to get Antigon, and that's huge. This should give you the aggression you want because you know he's not going to have that flux. Eli's free to go for that blade.
Yeah, you've got a massive shield advantage. You know they don't have a good flux that puts you in ultimate position. And right now, this is just clean up for Roar. That first pick was massive.
Yeah, that's going to have to be massive though for this team in the rest of the map because you've held on to Blade. That means that you have to open up this next fight. You can't allow Kassar to Blade first.
And this is getting a little bit worrying here for Roar. You're slowly bleeding out players, and losing Teemo is just as important as losing Antigon was in that previous fight. Now you're down the main tank, you don't have a shield.
Bro. Get down the supercharges, you've got nothing to give Eli that boost that Kassar's going to have available to him when he ults.
Yeah, without that key ultimate, that just means Ultimate's gonna take the space and use it themselves. Throw in the bongo for good measure. Zytor's gonna get taken out early. Kassar throwing the blade for good measure, and 90% as well. This is almost impossible for Roar to actually get on top of reliably.
You lost that Orisa, so you had to give up the point. And the ultimates, they've got the Orisa, they've got the supercharges, they've got the blade, they've got the team fight, and they've got Busan.
A big win for them there, and a very commanding one at that. I think throughout the entire match, they were dictating what Roar went to do, and even swapping off the Widowmaker, Monk Mada is still having insane amounts of value on the Ashe. You saw Eli tried to swap to an Echo to counter the Widow, but then the Ashe came out. The game plan changes entirely. You go back onto the Genji, but you've already thrown away the ultimate economy. It was so hard for Roar to actually build their way back into that game once the Ultimates had a control of it.
And even worse, they lost that first fight. And if on a control point you lose that first fight, you were already behind. And then you put into the equation the ultimates that you're lacking, that you had to swap one of your DPS onto a different hero so that their ultimates, the little that they'd been able to build up, as reset to 0. And when it's a blade, You need that up online as fast as possible, but the real nail in the coffin for Raw was losing that Orisa so close to supercharges. And the Genji was so close to Blade, but neither wanted to ult until the other would be available, because we know supercharges Blade, it's something that happens. It's a huge combination. It's pretty much going to be just as much of a staple as Grav Dragon Strike right about now. And it just cuts a team absolutely in half, because you try and deal with the supercharges, and you don't get to deal with the Genji who's blading into you, or you try to deal with the Genji and the rest of the team who are also buffed up by the supercharges, just turns around and nails you in the head.
Well, as nice as it is to dream about that and think of all the dead Ultimates players, it didn't happen, right? They had the chance to pull back the ultimate advantage. They had their way to claw back in. They had something they could actually roll to a 99% if they just played correctly. Losing that Orisa, it's the one thing. It's such an important mistake to not be making. Roar need to clean up their play a good bit if they want to find success when it comes to Blizzard World, because I suspect we'll be getting a good bit of the same.
Yeah, if you're Monk Matter, you are quite happy with the next map that's coming up, because it may not be the traditional hit scan friendly map like Junkertown Point A, but Blizzard World Point A is still a horrible place for people to walk through a Widow Cross as.
Yeah, Blizzard World, I mean, we saw it previously in the last match. We saw a Widowmaker pick straight out of spawn, going through the teleporter. We could see that stick around even longer, but Monk Mutta, even on the Ashe, really impressed me playing DPS. The Dynamites were there, the headshots. I think the primary fire is really underrated. People talk about Ashe's Dynamite and how powerful it can be in the middle of fights and how much damage it can put out, but Monk Mutta seems to have just as much pick potential on an Ashe as he does a Widowmaker with the primary fire.
And you know, like, the really scary thing is he's not being damage boosted. This is the guy able to do it without a pocket. And so if the ultimates, we saw a Mercy got put into a composition on Blizzard World to help give the players Ashe just a little bit of, you know, that helping hand. If Monk Matter gets that pocket, and if you have that 24/7 healing, and we all know how annoying, how miserable it is when you're an Ashe and you're shooting an Ashe that has a Mercy pocket, because you may be able to hit them once, but they're just going to be healed up, and you may even be able to hit them twice and get the pick, but the rest is just going to come through, and you've got to do the whole darn thing all over again.
Yeah, where's the sanctity of just allowing the 1v1 to be? The Mercy's not allowed to pocket when you're dueling. I think it's like an honor rule, right, Mox?
I mean, yeah, totally! An honor rule definitely would never pull out the Caduceus Blaster and go for the very low HP Ashe.
The Mercies are always going to try and finish them off, but here, these teams trying their best to take one another down, but pocket or not, Monk Mutta is coming out on top, and a lot of it has to do with the Ultimates making space for him. Their tanks, Antagon and Henningsen, have been doing a fantastic job with their shield placements, slowly grinding out the battlefield, taking foot after foot after foot, and getting their way in and behind the lines of Roar, who can't seem to get a footing no matter what map they're going to.
I would love to see Roar really knuckle down on this Widowmaker. Or even the Ashe, because Monk Matter has been the one thing that has allowed the Ultimates to get such an easy leg up in all of these fights by pressuring out that backline. Saito has to be so careful, so reserved in that position to not be taken out early in the fight, the way we saw that head be picked off so cleanly on Sanctuary when Monk Matter was able to get that side snipe going off. And so if you know that the Widow, if the Ashe is going to be a problem, to the point where you put in a Genji and he tried to harass, that just sometimes isn't enough. So Dive has come back, and Dive is very much viable on Blizzard World. If you fear Monk Matter, just make sure that they can't play the game.
It's always an option, but Roar sticking with the tried and not so true right about now, which is something that I didn't expect to see from them. I want to see some sort of adaptation. Maybe run the Mei like we saw in the previous match. It doesn't exactly shut down the Widowmaker, but you can go and you effectively have this third wall to shut down a third sightline if you really want to. But I think they need to clean up their play individually as well. They were giving away a lot of those sightlines. They weren't holding their ground, and allowing the tanks of the Ultimates to take space was really where they made the initial mistake.
Yeah, I want to see a little bit more backline pressure going on to the Ultimates, and a little bit more resources invested from Raw on that front line, because Teemo cannot go down. This Orisa, we've seen it, what happens when Orisa goes down early in a fight. You have to invest to make sure that mistake doesn't come back to cost you, and that means you are going to be behind in ultimate economy and in shield health bar.
Well, the Orisa staying safe and cozy here on the point. Roar are going to immediately give up their high ground. Now the ultimate, they have a choice. They can wrap around to the left or the right. It looks like they want to be taking this left side, though. Take the direct duel and just poke around the right, trying for this two-pronged approach. But you're going to get pressured out just by the pure numbers on points. They'll regroup with one another. I think this is definitely the right idea. Now Kasar can reach around the back line and look to that first pick. Eli dropped incredibly low. The Genji falls, followed by Zytor. And the ultimates have already set themselves up right on point here. Just the tank left from Lord.
Yeah, it's looking extremely dicey for Roar right about now because you needed to keep a hold of that point for as long as you possibly could. You would have had the high ground, you would have had so much time to be able to set yourself up for those early picks and to burn so much time off the ultimates. And now, the ultimates, they're going to be coming into this Genji blade. They've got the high ground, they've got the potential to keep Roar away from it and to keep the payload moving for free.
They had the high ground more like. Henningsen is going to have to wrap all the way back around, and I think Roar have already recognized this opportunity to move forward and take this, and they'll do exactly that. It's the little mistakes, but they matter so much for a team of this high of a caliber. Now Roar, they're going to try and use the Amplification Matrix to make their way in. The Ultimate's holding their ground, though. Immortality Field used, taking so much space, but they have to have the follow-up. They've taken down two, and they're going to finish it right on off by finishing off the bomb.
Yeah, it's just going to be real cleanup right about now. And if you're, because you're just waiting, you've got this blade, you're trying to bait Zytor out to use the Immortality Field, and then you can have that follow-up going through. But you got to get in, and that's going to be the hardest thing for this Genji, especially because Naru's going to be sitting on the Sigma Flux. And one ultimate for one ultimate, it's absolute value if you solo Sigma Flux with Blading Genji.
Yeah, they're getting near as well to that Bongo Blade combo that we mentioned earlier. Using it dry, though, gonna take out Zytor. Jumps over the shield bash. What a heads-up play by Kasar. And they'll get pure profit from it as Eli is the last fall.
And he got out of the Flux. Never tried to keep Kasar in check with that Sigma Flux. And the Genji was just able to zip right past him and straight into Zytor. If you're Roar, you don't have that stopping power that a Sigma Flux provides. You've got a Blade, and you'll have the Supercharges, but the Ultimates are going to have a rally, and all of that armor has to be cut out first.
Yeah, that support ultimate is going to be a real problem. If you can get past that, though, there's a serious opening here for Roar to make their way into. Wait for this Bongo to end. You're pretty alright with them just progressing forward. Take the high ground with your Ant Matrix and put in a lot of damage, but no, it's Teemo to fall first. And we know exactly how this one goes, Mox. When the Orisa falls, the team comes next. They're going to rally to try and force their way into the fight, but the bomb's in, and Naru's already down. The Blade committed even from Roar.
Yeah, this is a big commitment from Roar, and you know that you have to win this fight so that you keep the ultimates away. You give yourself that time to set up ultimates to cycle on through, because you've got to burn this time away from them. You've got to make sure that they don't get to take your Batiste out!
It's not feeling as good as it was for the Ultimates right now. They still got 5 people alive, but that spawn advantage for Roar is just so much to overtake. Now, Amplification Matrix thrown in for good measure here. They need to seal it out now. Naru is so difficult to remove from this cart alongside Admiral Raptor on the Brigitte. They're not able to finish off these kills. 6 members up for either side, and this fight's effectively reset.
Oh, if you're Roar, this is what you need to do, right? You need to make these fights as long as possible so that you can buy as much time away from the ultimates, set yourself up. Because remember, first to 2, ultimates already took Busan. If you're Roar, you need to make sure that you stop the ultimates as quickly as possible.
I mean, 2CP who? Welcome to Blizzard World. Roar holding on at the final point off some really impressive staggers.
Yeah, it's going to be as well them just coming in with the ultimates to boot the ultimates away, because you've got this Bob, and Zytor's going to have that Nana boosted swapped over to the Ana, so you can give that Bob just a little bit of extra oomph and make him harder for the ultimates to wipe away.
Definitely an option for them coming in. The ultimates, though, they're also nearing that signature ultimate. The Blade looking to be used. Just waiting for the right opportunity to go in. Kasar into the backline. They got to deal with Eli first, and they absolutely cannot. Kept up by Esports beautifully. They'll get tons of value out of that Blade.
Yeah, and so you're going to see Roar looking pretty nice right now. They've got this rally. They're going to have to survive, though, the true test of this next fight, Joe. The ultimate's coming in with this Genji Blade, with the supercharges. This is the wombo combo. This is the thing that can let that payload keep moving. If you're Roar, you need to find something. You need to kill this Genji.
Absolutely, they have the rally though, just like prior, and they're going to use it aggressively. However, they forget about Fuki. Up on top of the tank, will be falling very close to try and peel. Kazar again jumping out of it wisely. However, will still go down to those hyper spears. And again, Roar grind their way back into a fight late.
Yeah, if you are Roar, you're very good at doing this though. And it's a good thing. You're going to have to continue doing this. But you kept a hold of an ultimate. Fuki's going to have this Bob, and that's something that you can use to route the ultimates when they come in, either the high ground or the low ground. These teams, they have to actually move towards this payload. And so you can send that Bob on through, and they have to deal with that threat before they come to the rest of your team. And that sets up Eli for this Blade and Teemo to get the time to get supercharges online.
Absolutely. What ultimates need to do though is just survive those initial 2 ultimates. If they can get away with that, then they can get away with the rest of this fight, use their ultimates effectively. They're going to start off with the amplification matrix and force them off the high ground right now, make them wrap around into the gate here. But Fuki, you already see, make it away around the back line to chuck in the Bob. Eli follows up with the Blade, and the damage is just too much to overcome for the ultimates. Eli with another massive Blade.
And Raw doing again what they needed to do. They kept a hold of some ultimates to keep the ultimates away from the... We're saying ultimates so much. And now Antigen is actually going to go on to this Hammond, and you can't even touch. Raw doing such a good job of making sure that they were able to keep the ultimates away from that payload, with ultimates still in their back, Q abilities in their back pocket to spare, so that you could, every time they came knocking, have the supercharges in the pocket, have an amplification matrix in the pocket, have a Bob in the pocket. All of these things that they were able to send out to burn time to the point where the ultimates didn't have any time left to spend.
Absolutely. Roar looked like a completely different team in this map. Everything that you just mentioned were the things that we were beating on after the first map. Their ultimate economy was not great. Their ultimate usage was not great. Their ability to take and hold space was not great. And all 3 of those things, they did fantastically on that hold. They were proactive. They didn't give up space. They used ultimates extremely efficiently. This looks like a completely new Roar, not to mention a player that we haven't even mentioned once this map on the side of the ultimates. Monk Mutta has been completely disabled.
That's the thing with Blizzard World. You do set your DPS up if you've set them up. If you don't have that space, if you don't have the high ground, it is so hard to actually walk into a sightline already controlled. And that means that Fuki has the advantage in all of these engagements. Every time Matt has tried to go for a play, Fuki's been there, or even Eli on that Genji to shut them down.
Well, they've got to do it one more time here in the push. We did see a push end earlier in the day at the same exact point, so we know that it's completely possible for these teams to shut one another down. But I think a lot of it comes down to how they play the ultimate economy and whether or not they're able to get away with those picks, of course. Now we're seeing Fuki lock in the Tracer swap over to the Ashe Genji that found them so much success on the defense, however. And this setup is really curious. Taking the lower left, they're going to willingly put themselves into a choke. And the ultimates get to hold on to their high ground for a little bit.
Yeah, and if you're right, you don't have anything to go for that immediate pressure on the point except from Eli, who's just going to go straight for the ultimate's face rather than try and pull this team away from the high ground, where they're really going to be finding a lot of value. Not matter already about 20% cut off.
Yeah, Roar need to look at taking them off. Starting off with a halt into the accretion will be shut down right in its tracks. And both teams kind of just jockeying for position. The ultimate, it's a game of chicken of how long can you actually hold this high ground before you're forced off.
Eli just going to manage to get Monk Mutta. That's huge green sign for Roar, and the dive can come on through.
Yeah, straight from the side, you take down that main damage dealer. Kassar has a ton of work to do. Henningsen, though, takes down Fuki, evens up the score. Neither team within Ashe now, but the Ultimates need to think about rotating because Roar are going to get a really good position on this point right now and use the amplification matrix to hold it. Now the Ultimates don't have any option but to just wait this one out, give away a tick, maybe try and wrap around to the other side. They're going to go for a pincer maneuver, but that just leaves the Sigma wide open for the taking.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the Sigma kills himself. And if you're the Ultimate, that is the main tank you need right now, especially with Eli coming into the lane.
This is fantastically done by Roar. They read the pincer, they recognize the open Sigma. The fight was set up. Eli? Eli? We'll give him benefit of the doubt and assume that was a fat finger. How about that, Mox?
Yeah. You know what? We'll give it to him. He's been doing a very good job at keeping Monk Mutta in that place, but now when you don't have that blade, you don't have that pressure the Ultimates can influence this next fight with, because Kasal's got that blade. And Henningsen, he's got that supercharge coming through, and Raw don't have anything beside a rally and an immortality field to keep themselves alive on this card.
This is absolutely a winning fight for the ultimates, but again, it's about budgeting your ultimate so you can roll that ultimate economy. So we don't want to see them use too much to take this, not to mention mess up taking it at all. And Roar getting aggressive with the Gravitic Flux. Kassar finds the first pick on the Fuki though, and again, taking away that damage, the blade thrown in from Kassar, and this should be enough to finish it. If the ultimates have to use more, then they're looking at a disadvantage in the next fight, but it seems like they may have taken just enough space, although they are completely split up.
I mean, if you're the ultimates, though, you've got the Ashe, you've got the high ground, and that is going to let Monk Mada's Bob be absolutely huge. If you're Raw, you can't really deal with it other than sending Eli straight into the Lion's Den, and that Genji is going to be so easy to shut down on his own.
Yeah, alone, he's a problem, but with this team behind him, there's something they can rely on. They do have 3 ultimates in the bank. Eli's getting close to that Dragon Blade. Meanwhile, the ultimates, they have next to nothing. Antigone is heading straight for a Gravitic Flux, but it's not even close to being charged.
You had to use Monk Mada's Bob just to buy yourself a little bit of time, try and keep Raw away from you and set Antigone up better for that Flux, but Raw already have the ultimates wish that they had right now.
And this game is just constant jockeying for positions. Both teams want this high ground dancing back and forth, but the Gravitic Flux will come out from Antigone and it won't even connect onto the ground. Trading 1 for 1, but I'll take the tank any day of the week. Fuki falls, but with it, they have plenty of damage. However, you're gonna come out of spawn with the Bob. There's so much stagger potential. Eli's gonna throw in the slice and dice for good measure. The Dragon Blade not finding all that much value, but it draws out a lot of cooldowns. Now the ultimates, they have to hold early here.
I mean, Raw has to be able to get this payload uncontested now because you don't have that blade to try and keep the ultimates off your back.
Yeah, Roy, they have so many ultimates to do it as well. They're going to throw in the Bongo. They can throw in the Bob. Admiral Raptors providing so much support. And Roar Esports, a completely new team after map 1, are going to come in and take the second to even up the score against the ultimates.
And it's a completely different side of this team that we get to see as soon as Monk Mada goes down. We talked about it. We said, this is the guy that always sets these plays up for the ultimate. Their entire composition hinges around that DPS getting an early pick. And as soon as Monk Mada went silent in that kill feed, everyone on the side of the ultimates follows swiftly after.
Absolutely, right? You weren't able to find those opening picks, and I feel like the ultimates, they have a really strong sense of positioning and how much pressure they have in a fight. But when you take away that constant bleeding that the other team's doing when Monk Mada is removing them one by one, all of a sudden it's less pressure onto something that's compressible and more so just straight into a wall that's just not gonna move.
I mean, if you look at the ultimates and how they played Busan, their strategy to dealing with the Batiste and the immortality field he provides was to delay the problem. They killed the Batiste, which meant that they didn't have to work around baiting out that immortality field. And now that we're seeing Saito staying alive much, much longer on Blizzard World, suddenly you've got to worry about pulling that immortality field out of that Batiste. And when you're running a composition that bases your entire win condition around a Genji Blade and a Supercharger, you don't have a lot of tools really to play around with, to put in, to get that Batiste into that spot. You've got a Sigma Flux, sure, but Sigma Fluxes are, well, they come along once every so often, and they can be cancelled pretty easily by killing the Sigma or even CCing him out of it. So it isn't that consistent way of bullying this Batiste to get that really key ability out of the way. You need to find something else to put in this Batiste's way to make sure that he commits the immortality field down and you can punish him for it.
And as much as we'll talk about Blades, we're going somewhere where that Widowmaker from Monk Mada might be a little bit more of a problem. Temple of Anubis has some extremely long sightlines, and as much as Roar showed us a mastery of alternate win conditions and taking away those immortality fields like you had mentioned, I think that really is gonna be a tough call up against a Widowmaker as strong as Monk Mada, especially considering the way the map 1 went.
Yeah, if you are Raw, you're looking at Anubis pop up, you're looking at Monk Mada on the other side, and you have to commit, really punish this Widowmaker or Ashe. No matter what hits can, Monk Mada is going to be coming out of those spawn doors with. You've got to go at least 2 heroes on your team committed to that dive, because you can't just send the Genji in alone. We're already seeing that Eli is very much afraid of moving in alone when he doesn't have the rest of his team to fall back onto, because he knows how fragile he is when he's separated from everyone else. And so you go for a little bit of the buddy system, you know? You'd put in either a Winston or a Diva, just something that gives the Genji just a little bit more breathing space to go forward and deal with Monk Mado, who will be in control and so hard to unseat from all of these clean, clear line of sights.
And this is all assuming Mukmata goes with the Widowmaker. We've been trying to figure out what really is telling them to go with the Ashe or the Widowmaker, but it seems like he's fairly comfortable on both. This is an extremely strong Widowmaker point, but again, the Dynamite does offer them some looks. Even so, dive is a possibility on this map, not just with the buddy system like you're mentioning, but going for a full dive on the attacker, going for some sort of a teleporter approach where then you can just get past those Widowmaker silos without even having to worry about it. There's a lot of different options for Roar to try and shut it down as well.
Yeah, and if you go for that sim teleporter approach when you're on the attack, you also take away a big play the defenders like to make, Junkrat, where you just spam damage down all of these corridors, all of these side rooms. You build up to that tower so quickly, and you just pop it out, get one pick, and that's the fight completely decided. And we are seeing a return, just as we get to see a return of the Genji, of the Junkrat, and not just on Anubis, but Anubis is the home. This is the OG Junkrat map where we got to see in Overwatch League Season 1, but there's no Junkrat to be seen right now.
And just like we were thinking might happen, Monk Mutta is going to be put on a Tracer, and it's full dive here for the ultimates. Again, no Junkrat quite yet, but Fuki's Dynamite is going to be just as threatening as those mines, as the dive is only going to be halfway committed here by the ultimates, and unsuccessfully at that. Henningsen goes in, but none of his DPS are there to follow.
Unfortunately for the ultimates, Raw predicted dive to come out. They've got Eli on the Mei. And so you find value, even if a Reinhardt doesn't come through, even if you don't get to separate a team in half when they go for those side rooms, in having that primary fire CC. Every time this dive comes through, they've got first to get through this Mei, then to get through Mortality Field, and all the while be surviving when they're only being healed by an Ana and a Lucio.
Yeah, this dive could be a bit of an overcommit, not wanting to swap off of it, staying very, very stagnant. There's so much space that they could be using right now, but they're starting off right, taking down Teemo yet again. This main tank just can't seem to stay alive for Roar.
Yeah, you really need to keep your main tank alive. Dive normally goes for the juicy, squishy targets, and the fact that Teemo went down so early means he's got to swap onto the hammer just to get back into the fight.
Now everybody in a crowded room. That's exactly what this Winston wants. Antigone finds yet another, and these are just like shooting fish in a barrel for the ultimates. They'll take one after another, and point A with the win.
Yeah, Eli is all about trying to build up as much of this blizzard charge as you possibly can, because the ultimates, look at what they're going to be coming in with. They've got that snowball potential, they've got that nano blade. Everybody hates to be on the receiving end of this one, and it's all going to be down to Eli. As soon as that Genji blade, you have to be able to counter those ultimates with a blizzard and catch him and kill him as quickly as you possibly can.
Yeah, now Mock, we know the snowball potential is there, but they do need to execute it. You have to have the follow-up. Sar finds the first one on his eye toward the blizzard by space, but the Tracer goes down in a one, and that is so big. That second pick, all that stagger potential now gone. The off tank's gonna fall in Naru, and Teemu cannot get a break on the side here as the Primal Rage comes in from Henningsen. It's all about the stall for Roar at this point.
Well, I mean, it's going to be so hard to stall. Antagon's so close to that bomb, but it's Chucky Milk with this Lucio not being pressured, has Science Fire, so even when Roar tries to come in for the kills, it's going to be so hard to shut these guys down.
Well, Mokmata does not find the pick successfully on the side tour, and that's going to give a massive opening. The creation lands, and down go two of those major players for the ultimate as Roar slowly try to grind their way back into this fight. They have 5 people. This is looking like it's going their way, Mox.
Yeah, it's just going to be what Naru falls. And now if you're Roar, you do have those respawns. Eli trying to find something with this Doomfist. His Reinhardt on point just holding up that shield, and the ultimates have been pushed back. But it's only for a little while, because they need one more tick, one more fight. And if an entire team gets ripped apart by a nano blade, Raw won't have that chance that they did in those last engagements. They won't be able to stagger onto this point because they'll already have given up that tick.
Yeah, Roar had to make the compromise to swap over to the stagger composition, and with that, they give away their entire set of ultimates. However, you don't need them when you got Hold Hook! Kasar, down he goes, unable to be saved, and now there's a lot of ultimate charge to be gained by Roar here.
This is huge for Roar, because you were able to delay the blade, you were able to get the Genji out of the way, and so the ultimates don't want to commit into this fight when that win condition, 50% of it just is not alive right now. And that's buying Roar the space to set up a counter. It's not going to be for Eli this time with the Blizzard. It's Admiral Raptor so close to that side barrier, and that, it may not keep your team alive, but it'll give you a little bit of space, a little bit more breathing room to deal with the Genji instead of just outward panicking.
Yeah, that fight was so massive for their ultimate economy, and pretty even when coming in here. Sound barrier used to counter the blade, but the pulse bomb connects on a Chalky Milk. We're trading 1 for 1. Make it 2 though, as Kassar picks one up on the tail end of their blade. The pool noodle slapping him right on around, but able to find just enough value to try and win over one more tick.
Yeah, Admiral Raptor so low, even lower, and that is going to be the ultimate. Surely taking this up. Now he's onto the hammer, just try and touch. Timo does not have the shadow bow. If he'd already gone onto that, obviously he doesn't have the ultimate necessary to keep these guys away from them.
This isn't quite certain though. Roar, they have the spawn advantage. The tanks aren't quite there for the ultimates. They don't have all that much in the way of damage. They need to have perfect target focus. Now a color lessons for a re-engage from Roar. This is entirely doable for them as Eli finds a pick on a Chalky Milk.
Fuki's so close, that pulse bomb can come up huge. And Kassar gets pinned. Timo comes in like an absolute wrecking ball and smashes that Genji against the wall and rolls the skin of their teeth. They've done it. And not only that, they've done it and they've forced the ultimates to swap their composition up. They're going double shielding to try and deal with these whole hooks. But Raw, they don't care. They don't have the Roadhog right about now. They're sticking with a double shielding of their own.
And this one's even better than the last time because the ultimates also swap compositions. You're not giving away an ultimate advantage either. The only thing you have to worry about is Kassar's blade, which is going to be completely naked. You put that up against the pulse bomb. I'm kind of taking Fuki's odds right about now. There's a lot of players in a very small area. If this can connect, even taking away just an immortality field, you're looking at a lot of damage being thrown your way. Here come the ultimates though, pushing into the point, and you see Fuki posturing, waiting for the right moment to come in, waiting for that immortality field to be forced out. But how greedy can you be? Because your teammates are slowly getting ground out of the fight. Haul into the bomb, sticks onto one, but it's the immortality field that's going to be saving their lives as they're taking extremely low.
Oh, but you're still able to get the Orisa. And Kassar's actually going to pop that blade, trying to find value, but first he's got to get through that immortality field. Only now can he go for picks, and that's what Raw, the time that they need.
Roar have done a fantastic job as well with this. Disengage straight back to the spawn side of the point. They're going to take a map for it with only a minute left.
Oh, if you're the ultimates, you were going for your massive big win condition. You were going for that blade, but unfortunately you weren't able to bait Zaito into using the immortality field early. And now Raw, they've got a win condition of their own. It's going to be Eli with this Blizzard, and it all hinges once again on the Batiste. Batiste so crucial in all of these compositions. Immortality field stops so many pushes from being successful.
And look at how proactive Roar are being as well. You can stop this push before it even begins. You can tell they're hunting, searching for that one opportunity to use the ultimate. The amplification matrix is going to make this extremely awkward for both sides to move in on. Rally, though, going to be used by Admiral Raptor just to keep his teammate alive. Will do so successfully and allow them to take down Timo. Now Antigon will go down, followed by a Blizzard. This ain't looking good for the ultimates as they're all frozen up and ready to be taken down.
But you still have to get through the bomb, and Eli is falling so low. You can't go for the kills because Lob's acting like a bodyguard.
The wall got a little close to holding them, but it will force them right on into the choke, exactly where you want them for all this splash damage. The freeze, the hyper spheres, the bongo will be committed by Roar, just trying to get some sort of foothold on the point, and they'll do exactly that. Close this one out and stop him at B.
Oh, the ultimate's not able to pick up that third and final tick, and through all of it, they really doggedly, stubbornly stick with Kassar being on this Genji, and Monk Mata was again silent in that kill feed for a lot of the latter half of that map. If you'd had just a little bit more pressure, because every single time the ultimates approach, the entire team goes the exact same way. There is just no crossfire going on at all. And if you'd stationed Monk Mata up to try and set them up for that high ground, then at least Raw would have that split focus. Half of their attention would be diverted to the DPS that we know can hit their shots. We know poses the biggest problem for this team. And so you would have just a little bit more breathing room for the rest of your team to move out of that side room and onto points, so you're not just being spam damaged and dynamited and burnt down by Eli and Fuki, and instead you're in that open space. Your tank line can go for those picks rather than just keeping their shields up and hoping that no one dies.
Yeah, now though on defense, those DPS that you mentioned weren't getting any value can start to work their way towards some value. You've got some longer sightlines to work with. Kassar can do what Kassar does best and just try and farm that backline alongside Monk Meta, try and finish off a lot of these dynamite kills. Eli still playing on the Mei though, says that we're going to play a little bit more of an up close and personal game.
Well, remember, they are on the attacking side. They can try and go for a little bit of the switcheroo out of spawn, but this is something that you can absolutely run with, because you can use that wall as a sort of third shield to allow yourself to safely transition from the main part of this corridor into one of those side rooms without taking so much poke damage that Monk Meta's already got an ultimate before you even get to see the rest of the ultimate spaces.
Yeah, it's almost certain they're going to make their way in there and just deny a lot of ultimate charge. You know you win this battle of attrition. You've done it time and time again. The double shield long hold just tends to go the way of Roar historically. The ultimates are already giving up a ton of space here.
Kassar's already getting a lot of chip damage in though, 20% to that blade, and he can't go for the dashes because Eli's going to be there on that main.
Yeah, this May's making life hard, and already the ultimate's forced back to the point they're trying to play this two-pronged approach, but we know what happens. They just go straight for the Sigma every single time. Chalky Milk bound to fall, taken extremely low, but it's Teemo who goes first. Roar getting way too big for their bridges here, but they're trading their way out so effectively in this fight.
Eli takes the eye away from the Genji for just a split second, and that's all Kassar needs to get that kill. Teemo's going to go onto the Hammond, so Raw know that they can still press this advantage, and they want to get this fight started as quickly as possible.
Oh, what a wall onto Henningsen, though. You're not long for life after that one. Now, it's just farming sports in the smaller room. Not as Hyperspheres. They're going to be more than happy to do that one. Finish off point A for Roar here. Start it off right.
Yeah, if you're the ultimates, you just need to buy yourself as much time as you possibly can to set Kassar up for this play, because you need that stopping power. Roar are going to be coming in with Eli on this Blizzard, and Zaito's already got an amplification matrix. You can't run away. You can't disengage from an amplification matrix and get out of the way of it if you're all frozen in Eli's Blizzard. And the ultimates, they don't have that Lucio. They've only got that immortality field to try and keep themselves alive through both, and those is going to be burnt down so quickly.
Absolutely. Now it's about being proactive, right? You don't want to go into that fight where you have to play into the blade, into the bob, into all this stuff that the ultimates have. An early pick here is exactly what Roar need to make their way in. Starting off though, they're probably going to go for the amplification matrix, just to throw in a ton of damage at the ultimate, see if they can find anything. Of course, you're fishing for that one pick, a halt into the accretion, but there it is, the bob. The ultimates using their namesake to try and engage this fight, however, not getting all that much value from it.
Yeah, they're hoping. They don't want to go in quite yet, because Eli has not hit that Blizzard 5% away, and you've got to hold on to it until Kassar pops out that blade.
They're confident they can get off a couple lives, but Henningsen again, caught in the corner. The walls have been perfect here from Eli, following up the Blizzard, and that's going to peel perfectly for the blade from Kassar, who now has no space to do anything. The follow-up damage is there, and Kassar is running for his life. The only man left alive on point here for the Ultimates, as their hopes tick away alongside their hopes of winning the match. Roar going to take it 2-1.
I love the play that Roar goes for as well. They know that Kassar's got that blade, and so as soon as the Blizzard comes through, everyone in the team walks straight into it. And the Genji with the blade, he can't do anything. He doesn't want to get in close because he's going to be CC'd, his ultimate's going to be gone, and his life is going to be following shortly after. And that was a big difference, because the first time we saw that Blizzard come through to try to deal with that blade, everyone on the side of Roar scattered away from it. That was why Kassar was still able to get kills in the first round with his blades, even up against the Blizzard. But that time Roar learned from their mistakes, and that time they pulled it off perfectly.
I think learning from their mistakes is the perfect way to put it, Mox. They came in, they fixed everything after map 1, and the adaptation from this team was just incredible. Time after time again, they showed us they could recognize their problems, come in and fix them. Even from map 2 to map 3, they cleaned up their play a ton. They had game plans for every single fight. They knew when they had the ultimate advantage, they knew how to press it, they knew the order that they wanted to use them, and it was so clean every single fight. The defense was gorgeous. The attack was just as much so, and the ultimates, they seem to be relying on these early fight picks maybe a little bit too much.
They relied on their DPS to open the door for the rest of the composition to bulldoze that way through. And unfortunately, there is a big fat door stopper on the other side that was available for Raw for a lot of those fights, and that was the Mei. And Mei is just so strong at shutting anything down that tries to get into your team, tries to shut you down by invading and pulling you apart piece by piece from the inside, because you can't. The Genji, we saw it, Kassar on that first approach when they were trying to go and chip away and get the kills, they weren't able to go in for the team. They had to set up a poke damage shurikens from afar, because if you dashed too close, you'd be frozen, you'd be walled, you'd be dead.
Well, it's a great adaptation from Roar, and it was the exact same adaptation that we saw in the prior matches, right? The Mei, like you mentioned, was big here, but it was bigger in the match earlier today. I think it's an adaptation that we're going to see a lot more of, especially from the team that may struggle in the initial matchup, kind of fall back onto that Mei as a way of dealing with the dive, as a way of dealing with these DPS threats that have become so prominent in the normal patch.
Mei is just an all-rounder. That's why everyone sort of knows how to play her. If you go into these tournaments, you have to have some form of DPS that can pick her up, even at just a moment's notice. Because sometimes you're getting dived, your backline is just not able to stay alive, and McCree, he's all well and good, but as soon as that flashbang goes away, and remember, it's on a cooldown. That's the crucial thing. It's on a cooldown, which means if you miss that first initial flashbang, it's gone away and you've lost the fight because you've fluffed your ability. Mei's CC, Mei's card control, it's all primary fire. So the only time that you have to worry about it being offline in a way is when you're in that reload animation. And Mei players, they're not going to get caught out by that one. So every time a Winston comes through, every time a Diva or a Genji goes after your backline, you can stop them immediately, and quite literally, in fact, and send them back to respawn with an icicle right through the brain.
Yeah, compositionally, we saw a lot of adaptation today, mostly in the DPS lineup, but when it came to the core, when it came to the supports and the tanks, we rarely saw anything other than that double shield alongside the Brigitte Baptiste, and they're getting so much value out of it that pretty much every fight just turns into this battle of attrition, and it's less so the first team to make a play, and more so the first team to slip up, or give the wrong amount of space, or give the wrong area on the map, giving the Genji or the Ashe some way in. And I think that's something we can expect to see coming into future days, because we got plenty more to go, don't we, Mugs?
Yeah, we have so much Overwatch to bring to everybody. So many more immortality fields to be baited out of Batiste's. So many more Genji plays to see picking up play of the game, and I wouldn't change it for the world. It's such a fun meta to be in right now.
Absolutely not. Ladies and gentlemen, though, we have an interview coming up after just a short break, so we'll be back to do that in a minute. So guys, I promised you a quick break. We're already back. It's Mox and I, already joined by the victor, Eli. Eli, how you feeling after that match?
Pretty crazy. Like, my heart is actually pounding still.
Yeah, I mean, Contenders Trials, you've come a long way, but it's the stage to prove it, and you guys did so fantastically. You guys had adaptation all over the place. It seemed like you guys had really figured out the Ultimate's game plan. What do you think was the linchpin to your success there?
We've been going over a lot, because the map pool is quite small, so we've been going over sort of every different scenario that we can come into in each map. So we're very prepared.
So does that mean that as soon as you saw a Genji coming into the composition, which was a real problem to deal with, you had a solution of the Mei already planned, or was that a slight diversion away from what had been?
The Mei has always been something that we've played on Anubis. Mei is incredibly strong on that map. We did prepare a lot for dealing with a Nanoblade comp for second point. Like, we know it's a big problem for us. So we had to come up with a sort of creative solution to that, which I think worked out for us.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the issues that the Ultimates were giving you guys had to do with their DPS comp. You mentioned the Nanoblade, but I'll harken all the way back down to map 1, where it was Monk Mud on the Widowmaker and the Ashe. That gave you guys a lot of problems, but after map 2, it just wasn't a problem. Monk and I were talking a bit, and the maps made it a bit tough for them, but you guys clearly did a good bit to shut that down.
Yeah, the Widow was something that we didn't expect. We've never played against Widow there before, and Monk being very clean on the Widow was definitely surprising for us. But we had a little talk between maps. We came up with a solution, and clearly it worked out.
Yeah, I think that's going to be your guys' biggest advantage heading on further into this, though. It's just your ability to adapt and carry yourself even further on, regardless of how late the match goes.
Well, I mean, talking of adaptation, I'm sure that you remember that there was just a slight misread on that second map of Busan when you
Oh.
came out on the Echo. What was the math behind that? Were you expecting Monk Matter to be back on that Widow, or?
We were actually expecting them to play dive, and Echo into dive can be really strong, seeing as I can mark the enemy main tank, basically make it so he can't play the game. But then seeing them roll out on the spam was a bit different for us. Obviously, Genji being in a very good place right now, so we had to then go back and swap, but it put us sort of on the back foot for that map.
Yeah, it made it rough, but I've got one more thing I want to ask about. What happened with the blade on Blizzard A?
Right, I knew you'd ask about that. Genuinely, it was a misclick. I genuinely meant to like dash combo him, and I pressed Q by accident. Like, but it looked like a BM.
We figured as much.
Yeah.
All good, man. Appreciate the honor.
Kristen did a fat finger.
Yeah, no, we gave you benefit of the doubt.
Thank you.
We reasoned that you'd been getting a lot of value on other ultimates, and that you probably wouldn't be the one to go for the BM play.
Yeah. No.
And you guys still won the fight following and the map, and then the map after that, and so you take away a victory, man. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right, man.
You
Good
had
luck in
to
the rest of your game.
didn't you had to.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm so curious.
Yeah, let him get away with his dignity and his pride intact.
He got away with the win. What more do you want?
Well, I mean, just to make up for the fact of Joe just trampling on your pride, is there anyone, Eli, that you want to shout out or say a particular thank you to?
Absolutely, our coach Hayes. This guy is like an absolute genius. He has helped us figure out every scenario, every possible puzzle that we could have come into, and he's really helped us being able to adapt so well. So shout out to Hayes, and obviously all my teammates. They're so hardworking. I'm super proud of them all.
Well, it shows in your guys' play. You come out with a massive victory to start off day one. You know what? I hope you guys can do even better in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, though, as for today, that's all we have for you for EMEA, isn't it, Mox?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still a little bit unhappy about Eli. You know, he was here. You had to ask him about it, so you don't really have room to stand on either, do you, Joe, with your 25% Genji win participation?
Oh, it's going up. It used to be 20.
Slowly but surely climbing up the ladder as we slowly but surely get to see more and more Overwatch throughout the week. So you really don't want to miss some of these matches that are going to be coming up.
Yep, and there's more to be played tomorrow. Same time, same place. You guys know exactly where to watch it here on Monkey Bubble. That's for today, though. That's Mox and I. We will catch you guys later.